The Washington Commanders suffer an embarrassing loss on national television to the Chicago Bears, previously winless, 40-20. Here's your instant reaction. Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Ref the District's Instant Reaction. I'm Nathan Perry. That's the Stoner. We are on the Believe Network, and I cannot believe what we just watched, Stoner.
It's an embarrassment. You said it in the opening. It's an absolute embarrassment that the Washington Commanders put on in front of their home fans, in front of a national audience. Absolute embarrassment.
We walked into this game, you said, more confident than we were against the Arizona Cardinals, which we were really confident in that. Our viewers, our listeners were confident as well, Stoner. 96% picking Washington to win this one. Yeah. Most of the pundits, even Vegas had Washington as 6-point favorites. How did this get turned upside down so bad?
I don't know. You're asking me to answer an impossible question. I mean, the Bears coming in, they're all those people who were picking Washington to win, the 96% on our poll. Like you said, Vegas had us as a favorite. Everybody out there had Washington winning because the Bears are not a good football team. They're 0-4. They had lost 14 in a row. In all 14 of those games, they gave up at least 25 points. They had all kinds of injuries of guys who weren't playing. They were playing rookie safeties, rookie corners, not first-round draft pick rookies. We're talking about rookies who were drafted late in the rounds. Their center went down early in the game. They were on their fourth-string running back for most of the second half. Their coach, the whole thing was their coach was going to get fired after this game when they lose. Not if they lose, but when they lose. Their defensive coordinator quit. Their second-best receiver is not even allowed to be around the team. And they came into Washington on national television and in front of our fans and slapped us around for 4 quarters, and it was an absolute embarrassment.
The defense was vaunted, right, by the end of last season. This season, right, so far, they've been a little slow. We've talked about that Jack Del Rio and his defenses start slow. But even then, 5 games in, giving up 40 points to the Chicago Bears, Justin Fields didn't even have to use his legs to beat you.
Yeah.
How bad was this Jack Del Rio defense today?
And I don't want to put a whole lot of emphasis on Jack Del Rio per se, but the players who were out there were just not good. The defensive backs, I mean, Kendall Fuller was the first quarter of the season all-pro corner.
PFF all. Yeah,
PFF. And he was absolutely torched all game long. And Emmanuel Forbes was benched. Some guy was arguing with me on Twitter about whether he was benched or as part of the rotation. Emmanuel Forbes was benched a week after getting completely torched. The linebackers can't make plays. For most of the game, the defensive tackles weren't getting any pressure in the ends. I'm at the defensive line, weren't getting any pressure. You can't give up 40 points to Justin Fields throwing the ball. I mean, he had decent numbers on the ground. He had 57 yards, but that's an average game for Justin Fields. He had 4 touchdowns and no picks and 280 yards. You can't give up 40 points to Justin Fields throwing the ball. Nobody in the league. I don't care if you're supposed to be a good defense or you're a not good defense. You don't give up 40 to the Bears.
You're not wrong there. Now, on the flip side of the things, Eric Bieniemy and his offense only getting 20 against, as you mentioned, the Chicago Bears defense in this 14-game losing streak had given up 24 points a game. The Sam Howell, this offense can only put up 20. What's going on here? Sam Howell not the guy anymore? Is Eric Bieniemy not, what's going on that this was again against such, second and third stringers for the Bears defense that 20 points is the most you can muster?
I mean, Greg Stroman looked like an all-pro out there. Greg Stroman, of all people, had a pick, had a sack. He was everywhere. Greg Stroman. Do you hear what I'm saying? We all know him in Washington. He spent a little bit of time here. He's not good. And yet he looked like he's going to the Pro Bowl this year based on what he did against Washington. Offensively, you can look at some of Sam Howell's numbers. I mean, he had almost 400 yards passing, but they ran the ball 6 times the entire game, Nathan. 6 rushes for 10 yards for Brian Robinson. That's it. They didn't run the ball 1 time in the second half. And that's kind of understandable because they were down 27-3. What was the score at halftime? Is that right?
Yeah,
27-3 at halftime. Mm-hmm. So that's understandable that you're going to throw the ball a lot. But they didn't run the ball not 1 time in the second half. And we can't say about Sam Howell. We still don't know yet. He still shows so many good things that make it look like he is the guy. But the one thing that's going to derail him is his inability to not take sacks, his inability to understand the pocket and to read the defenses that are coming at him. I mean, he had another 5 sacks. Mm-hmm. Chicago came in with 2 sacks.
Yeah, 3 of those coming, I think, pretty late there in the fourth quarter, but the point still stands that 5 sacks on the in the game is
I don't know, Nathan. I don't know if Sam Howell for sure. I mean, it's a bad game, it's a good game. It's a bad game, it's a good game. But you've got offensive line issues. When he's getting pressure from guys on the offensive line, he doesn't have a good feel for the pocket yet. And maybe that takes time, although he's been a quarterback a long time. He doesn't have a good feel. He doesn't know when to step forward, when to go out. He always seems to go the wrong way, right into the defenders. And that's a feel thing. That's something you really can't teach. I mean, Tom Brady had the best pocket presence that you've ever seen. He just knew those little movements, the Drew Breeses of the world like that. He doesn't have that. And I don't know if he can have it. And that's going to doom him if he doesn't figure that part out.
Yeah, he's definitely made many a good big time throw, NFL caliber throws. So there is certainly the talent that's there. And I still think Eric Bieniemy can, coach an offense. I think that this loss here is just baffling, though. I mean, who do you even begin to put this on? The defense giving up 40 points, the offense only scoring 20. Ron Rivera for not having his team ready after a short break. The Bears had the same amount of time, Stoner, and they're traveling.
Yeah.
And was this the Dick Butkus effect? Is that what happened here? They were playing for a guy, a legend for their team that had just passed away, an hour before the game?
Yeah. I don't know how that would work. I mean, you think DJ Moore has even heard of Dick Butkus? And I'm being serious. I'm not trying to be condescending towards Dick Butkus, but DJ Moore has probably never heard of Dick Butkus. Now, he's only been here for...
Not never, but yeah, he's
been in Chicago for a couple months, but he doesn't... So it's not like DJ Moore has extra incentive to play for Dick Butkus because, he's probably never met the guy. So I don't think that could be it. And I know a lot of people will want to put it on that. This game was lost. I really think this game was lost in the first quarter on Washington's first series on 3rd and 1, 3rd and inches. And against this defense, they couldn't get inches. They went backwards on a handoff to Brian Robinson on their very first drive. And I think that lost the game right there. How many tush pushes did the Bears have on 3rd and inches or 4th and inches that were successful? And Washington couldn't do it. And it was all downhill from there. And it just snowballed and it just got worse and worse and worse. And it was, again, I'm going to keep using this word until somebody tells me to stop. It was an embarrassment.
Yeah, it really, really was. This was a game I wanted Washington to win in this kind of fashion themselves, to show people that they are a dominant team and they can bounce back. They just had what you called a moral victory against the Philadelphia Eagles, and now
Yeah.
to come up this short, not like we're not talking like a 1 yard short of the line to gain here. We're talking this is backwards movement, and that's why I told you after the Philadelphia game that I don't consider it a moral victory. That I feel a little bit better, but I'm on delayed reaction until we beat the Bears. Now we don't beat the Bears, and that Philadelphia loss is just that. It's a loss. There's no moral victory there anymore.
Well, no,
It's
there's not
wiped away.
anymore. No,
It's
you're
wiped
right.
away. Whatever good
Wiped away.
you had from barely losing to Philadelphia is completely wiped out by a 20-point loss to the previously winless Bears. They were hapless. These were cubs. These were little baby bears. These were the Berenstain Bears, Stoner.
347 days since they won, Nathan.
And Washington spotted them 27 points in the first half. They had a touchdown, field goal, touchdown, field goal, touchdown, and 5 drives in the first half. Washington's offense, 2 3-and-outs to start this start this game, only mustering 3 points in the first half. They start to try to make it respectable. We think that maybe only down 10 points with 10 minutes to go, Washington might be able to do something. And then the Bears score an inexcusable touchdown on third down. Inexcusable. And that just really puts the game away for Washington, and they don't do anything else the rest of this game. Who do you put this on, Ron? Or who do you put this on, Stoner? Because I'm spelling it out for you right now. It's got to be Ron Rivera, right?
It's a Freudian slip there that you had, Nathan. That absolutely is that you put all of it on Ron because there were so many deficiencies throughout the game. It was bad on. It seems like your game plan, both offensively and defensively. It was bad execution by your defensive line. Bad execution by your defensive backs, who were just the worst today. Bad execution by your linebackers. Bad execution by your offensive line. Bad execution on your run game. It's just everywhere, and that has to go to your head coach. Now, I'm not advocating that you have to fire Ron Rivera today because there's nobody. I agree. There's nobody that's going to come in and turn this around. That's not going to happen. But somebody's got to be held accountable for a performance like this. Somebody has to be. And I would not be surprised if somebody does lose their job. And if you're asking me, I think it's probably time that Jack Del Rio goes. And I've kind of been a supporter of him a little bit, or I haven't been an anti-Jack Del Rio guy. But this is 3 straight games of at least 30 points. And 40 to the Bears again, and Justin Fields throwing the ball. That's the problem. If Justin Fields had 160 yards running, then you could say you got beat by a superior athlete. But throwing the ball, 4 touchdowns, Justin Fields, somebody's got to be held accountable.
It's rough. Wow. Yeah, no, Jack Del Rio definitely going to be under a lot of fire for all the reasons you mentioned there. A lot of people trying to give him time because the defense tends to start off slow, but there's no excuse for it.
Yeah.
And will be interesting to see what happens as far as that going forward. But Washington is only 2-3, Stoner. That's 3 losses in a row.
Yeah.
2 of those really bad losses, though.
Right.
The Bills loss was bad. The Bears loss is bad. And Philadelphia loss is what it is. Where does Washington go? They have Atlanta. They have Giants. These are winnable games. Normally you get, Ron Rivera teams get these kind of pushes in the middle of this. So it's not like it's over. And we definitely feel a lot more despondent at 2-3 than we probably should. But when our team just lost 40-20 to the Bears.
Yeah. I mean, it's
so where do we go from here? It's 2-3, Stoner. Where do we go from here?
You do have some winnable games coming up. Now, when you say, well, why would you think Washington can win the games? I understand that they're not going to go into these games as favorites, or you're not going to go into it and say, well, yeah, they're going to win. They're better than this team. but they're games against teams that you can beat,
Yeah.
which is Atlanta and the Giants. Then you got Philly again, but then you got the Patriots, who aren't very good. Then you got Seattle, who's pretty good. Then you got the Giants again. So you have some winnable games in there, and hopefully you can start fixing some things and win some games, and then head into the Thanksgiving area around 500 and maybe make a push at the end. So the season is not over at 2-3. It's definitely not over, but there's so much that needs to be fixed, and it starts defensively. They were 29th in the league in points per game given up. They're probably going to be 32nd after this week because it just went up.
Big
They
time.
gave up 40.
Yeah,
they were
big
averaging giving up 30, and they just gave up 40. So it's going up. And that's crazy to think, with all that money and all that draft capital on that defense, to have them go out there. And look, we killed Emmanuel Forbes last week for his bad game against A.J. Brown. And people got really mad saying, oh, he's a rookie and he's going to learn. He's going to have bad games. True. But now he's costing this team games because of his inability to have good play on the field. And he got benched tonight. He got benched for Danny Johnson. So I don't know where this defense goes, but it's a bad defense right now. And it's shocking to say that against a team like Chicago. Just bad.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't just Chicago, Philadelphia. They gave up points to Denver. They gave up points to, Baltimore.
Yeah.
Not Baltimore, sorry, Buffalo.
Yeah.
It's a late one here. Washington losing in embarrassing fashion, 40-20 on Thursday Night Football. National crowd. Nobody's going to believe in Washington going forward. What will it take for people to believe in this team?
You lost to a bad team. You're going to have to beat a good team. You're going to have to beat a Seattle or a Philly or a Dallas. You still got to play the 49ers. You're going to have to beat a team like that and not just get by on. Think about their 2 wins are Arizona and Denver, 2 of the worst teams in the league. And think about their losses before this was against 2 good teams.
Mm-hmm.
But now you've got a bad loss on your record. So you have to make up for it by getting a good win against somebody. And I don't know who that's going to be. They will beat a team they're not supposed to. They always do. They're going to figure, I don't know who it's going to be, but then they could go into next week and they could lose to Atlanta. And a team that they should beat, that they're more talented than.
I don't know if I can say any game is they should beat after beat down by the Bears.
And one other thing that I don't want to let off the hook, the offensive line was bad. The offensive line was bad, and it's not just as simple as saying 5 sacks, but they gave up 178 yards rushing. They only got 10 yards rushing is what I meant to say. I was looking at the wrong one. And because they couldn't sustain a rushing attack. And so I think in the second half, yes, you're down 24 points, but sometimes you got to run the ball, and they never even attempted one time. And this offensive line, Sam Howell was under pressure quite a bit. Some of the sacks are on Sam Howell. I get it. There's no holes for the running backs. The offensive line was really, really bad again. I mean, was there anybody good? Did anybody have a good game?
Logan Thomas.
No, he had a fumble. Don't even try giving me.
You're right.
That was a crushing fumble that he had. They had all the momentum. They just scored a touchdown. They got the 3 and out. Then they're moving the ball again, and then he fumbles. That was a crushing fumble. And Sam Howell, 388 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. A crushing interception at the end of the first half that allowed them to get another 7 points when it was only 20-3. Nobody had a good game.
Yeah.
And if you can pick one out.
Yeah, it's hard to have a good game when you lose by 20 points to a previously winless team here. It is awful, but we are going to break this one down even more tomorrow for the day after reckoning. We're going to take a little bit of deep dive, sleep on it, see what we think. And then on Saturday, you can expect a little film session. We'll see what we want to break down as far as that's concerned. Not a good game to kind of look at. Washington has Atlanta on the horizon, little mini break for them to kind of really come together and see how they can right the ship. We'll see how that goes. I'm Nathan Perry. That's the Stoner here on Ref the District on the Believe Network. And until next time,
It was embarrassing.
be a fan.